Hi traders, and welcome to today's ACY Securities Forex market analysis. My name is Duncan Cooper and I will be your host. Today we'll be focused on the dollar index and the New Zealand dollar to the US dollar. So first we'll look at the news items coming out for the day, and then we'll have a look at the charts. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so first up, I'm going to go through the news items for the day. I'm at the FinLogic economic calendar. I'm just going to filter the calendar. Just looking for high important news items coming out. Now I'm looking at the New Zealand dollar US dollar to review today. So I want to look at what news items might be coming out for the New Zealand dollar. Now the time's here in Queensland time. So for Tuesday, I don't see anything that would impact the New Zealand dollar. But looking into Thursday, 4 o'clock in the morning, we've got the United States FOMC meeting minutes coming out. That would potentially impact the New Zealand dollar to the US dollar, and also the New Zealand annual budget coming out at midday my time on Thursday. So just be aware of those two items that could affect the New Zealand to the US dollar if you're trading that pair. Okay, let's move into the charts. Now first I wanted to review the dollar index before we get into the New Zealand dollar to the US dollar. And we've been moving down from resistance up here. So this is the monthly chart. We've moved down, broken below a low, formed a downtrend within the range, and we've just pulled up short here of this final low over here to the left. So we have a higher bottom here to this bottom, and obviously we're sitting on support from these old resistance tops from 2009 and 2008. So this is at 88.71 and this is at 89.62. So we could well be forming a bottom here and then moving all the way back up over the long term. For the month of May, we haven't actually managed to trade down to this old resistance high, forming support. So maybe we're not actually going to get down to that level, and we're starting to form a base to move back up. So let's have a look at the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, we put in a final low here, moved up to a lower high, formed a higher bottom, moved up to a higher high, forming an uptrend, and we're having a deep pullback. Last week we had a positive candle, so maybe we're just getting ready to move back up this way. Okay, so let's move it down to the daily. On the daily, what I've noticed is we do have just a fraction of positive divergence forming, only just, and we have, as I said, pulled up from support at the moment. Now if we do start to move back up, we could see a new leg up. So we've previously moved up from here to the final weekly top, then we pull back, and if price action holds here and breaks above this high point here, we could well see this move up here replicated. So I'll just copy that in. So over time we could see a move up breaking above this top here. So with that in mind, if support does hold here and moves up, this is going to be positive for the US dollar and negative for pairs to the US dollar. So with that in mind, let's get into the New Zealand US dollar analysis. Okay, so I'm just going to start on the monthly chart. And we've had this low form here. We've moved up, broken above a high point, moved into an uptrend, put in a high here, and we're just pulling back, starting to form potentially a higher bottom. But we have failed at resistance, so we have a high here at 74.37. Just going to put that in. I like to put in the exact numbers. So we're failing at that level a few months ago. We've actually failed in a resistance area. I'm just going to put in the final high as well. That's at 75.64.8. Alright, so we've moved into a band of resistance. Now this actually could be the final top, and we could actually move down this way for the long term. time will tell. So we've pulled back and we are actually moving up. So on the monthly chart we're seeing an uptrend. MACD is telling us we've got an uptrend, but that's too slow really to tell us that anything's changing on the monthly chart. Alright, let's move down to the weekly chart now. On the weekly chart things start to get a little bit more interesting. Price has been moving up to a higher high, higher low, higher high, but then we've pulled back and changed trend. We've broken below this higher bottom to a lower bottom, and now we're having a rally back up. And what I'm starting to see is that we will have a potential shoulder, head, and potentially a shoulder forming here. So we'll have a head and shoulder pattern forming at monthly resistance. So I just want to put in this weekly resistance here. That's at 7315. Alright, so that's the left shoulder. I'll just label it all in for you. That's the head. And we've got a potential left shoulder forming here maybe. Okay, so I've got resistance over on the left shoulder, and we're just a little bit short of that level at the moment. Okay, so price has moved down to a lower bottom and it's moving up, and I'm thinking this might want to be putting in a lower top here and then move down this way. Okay, so moving down to the daily, just move my labels around. There we go. Okay, I just want to put in support and resistance for the daily chart. Now there's a number of support lows here, but I'm going to put in the final one in this area. That's at 71.15. And then last week we moved up just short of the left shoulder area, the weekly resistance, and that was at 73.05. So I'll just put that level in too. There we go. So the trend on the day chart is a little bit mixed, ever so slightly up. We were moving up from a higher low to a higher high, then we put in a lower low, then we came up and put in a higher high, and then we moved down and putting in a higher bottom. So we've got a slight uptrend within a range. What I am noticing, exactly like the dollar index but opposite way, we actually have some negative divergence forming on the indicator. So potentially we have a top forming, but the market's very range bound, ever so slightly in an uptrend. Okay, so ideally, just going to put a fib tool in, we've had an approximate move up to the 62% retracement area. I'm thinking that's where price is going to be failing at, and then moving back down this way to test support and maybe move through to the 127 extension level over the long term. Okay, so just to draw that in, price has moved down. It's rallied up to the 62% area where the left shoulder is, and over the long term I'm potentially anticipating this is going to move down to this level of support at 69.43 approximate area, or down to the 68 level over the long term if price starts to set up and move down. Okay, Alright, let's tidy things up and we'll move down to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so moving down to the 4-hour chart. As I've been saying on the daily chart, we're quite range bound, and a great level last week to get into this trade and sell for a potential move down would have been up at the 73 level. So I'm just going to draw in a fib across the range of last week, and we've already moved up to the 62% level and started to move back down. But on the 4-hour chart at the moment, the trend, we can see we have a higher bottom moving up to a higher top, and we're having a retracement at the moment, but the trend is still up, and we're putting in a short-term bottom here. So we still may well move up, might test the 79% fib level, or even have a further test up at the 7300 level. So for me personally, I'm just sitting on the sidelines, but I really like the opportunity to sell at 73 or thereabouts, wait for a failure at that level, potentially put my stop at 74, and then look for a move down within the trend of the daily chart. So moving back to the daily chart, if you could take a trade at 73, stop at 74, then if you took profits down at support here at 69.43, you've got an approximate risk reward of 1 to 2.6, and if price was to move further down to the 127 extension level, you've got a potential profit target of 1 to 4. Okay, so as the week progresses, moving back to the 4-hour chart, price may well come back up to the 73 level, so I'm going to be watching that level very keenly to see if it can hold and fail. If it does, I might look for a setup on a lower time frame to get in, and then looking for a large move down. Okay, so that's my Forex market analysis for today, and I'll see you next time.